Ecosystems change all the time. It's the one thing you can count on. That change is somewhat predictable, though not entirely. There are a lot of variables involved. We know that change in ecosystems is often caused by some disturbance in the ecosystem. A tree might fall in a forest. There might be a flood or a fire. Something happens to disturb the status quo, and an ecosystem is suddenly very different than it was before. Some changes are little and some are big, but after a sudden change like that, an ecosystem will rebuild itself in a process we call succession. There are two types of succession. Primary succession happens after a really big disturbance, and secondary succession happens if the disturbance is smaller, or it can happen after primary succession. Primary succession is the process of rebuilding the soil after some really terrible disturbance has destroyed it. Maybe there was a volcanic eruption, or maybe there was a very hot fire, but something took away all the plants and left the area with no soil. Primary succession takes a very long time. It starts with microorganisms and the weathering of rocks. Lichen and mosses move in and live and die and then decompose. Over many years, a thin layer of soil forms, and eventually tiny plants that don't need a lot move in. Eventually, there's a healthy enough soil for secondary succession to begin. Secondary succession looks different in different types of ecosystems. It can happen in any kind of ecosystem. For forest ecosystems, grasses move in, followed by shrubs, and eventually by trees. Along the way, animals that depend on the plants move into the ecosystem, and soon it might look just like it did before the disturbance. Or it might be slightly different because there is some randomness in the system. Medium-level disturbances lead to ecosystems that have high biodiversity because they lead to areas with lots of variation in conditions, and high biodiversity gives communities more resilience and ability to withstand disturbance whenever and however it happens. There is not really an end to succession since ecosystems are always changing, but historically ecosystems that have undergone succession and have high biodiversity are called climax communities. Succession is the change of ecosystems over time as they respond to disturbance, and there is always disturbance and change. Stay awesome!